What you're looking at is a completely torn down Harley-Davidson Flathead that was in a flood and then sat for over 10 years. We're gonna totally rebuild this motorcycle and bring it back to its owner so we can take it out for its maiden voyage. So with all that being said, we're really dealing with kind of a worst case scenario. It was running just about 20 minutes ago. As of now, the bike's gotta come completely apart. So I got my pal Steve from VL Heaven, probably the most knowledgeable flathead Harley-Davidson guy that there is. Steve's gonna help us get all this torn apart, and hopefully by the end of the day, we can get this engine going back together. Mike, you can jump in if you want to also. You won't be in the way one bit.
You know, I was thinking about something, and this is something probably you don't want to hear. If it was recirculating,
Yeah.
how much of that is...
That's right. I'm gonna have to flush the oil tank
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, because it was milky back in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it definitely was. It's a nice dash.
I do like that painted dash on 39s.
In probably less than 45 minutes, you're gonna see this thing going from looking like a motorcycle to looking like a project. We're gonna have the tanks off, the engine out, the primary and clutch drive completely off its potential. The transmission's gonna come out. We've gotta flush the oil tank. We know that. All the stuff in the engine made its way back to the tank. So quite a bit of work just in the disassembly of this bike, and it's not until we get to that point we can really start deciding what really needs to be done.
Throttle connected? Yeah.
Oh, there we are. Great. Gas it.
I was trying to pull this one off. I
Look
was
at
looking
this.
for hose, clamping hose,
Yeah.
and I went there. And I didn't have it. It may have been just online or something.
Oh boy. That's
What?
definitely. Oh, that clutch is
Glued together?
rusted together. Everything that we've gotten into has been a disaster. This thing. So this is turning out to be a lot more work than we expected, but Stan's our neighbor, and on this one, we're gonna get him back above water. We are not gonna let him sink on this one. Stan's in way over his head. Stan's our neighbor, so we're not gonna leave him high and dry. Maybe we do leave him high and dry. Stan, it's getting expensive.
Look how a little
Little on the rich side.
Yeah. It ain't wet though.
It's not.
No.
That's good. Steve, is this the worst flood bike you've ever worked on?
I haven't worked on anything quite this bad, you're right.
Oh boy. One thing we're gonna wanna do is immediately find out what size that piston is so I can order some new ones. It's a 10 over piston. 10 over's not bad. Off pipe, out, bingo.
Okay, I got the rear engine mounting bolts out.
Rear mounting bolts are out. I think I might pull that generator too to save 10 pounds. I don't quite know what I think about that. It was charging when we were running it. It seems like that's not a lot of resistance there, you know, but it doesn't squeak, so that's good. Yep.
Yeah, you got it.
Honed.
Yeah, just...
So maybe it's the same size pistons and rings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little more than
So the rods feel nice. Pistons definitely need replaced. New pistons, new rings. If the clearance is nice on the cylinders, we'll end up just running with the same size, which will be nice because we won't have to rebalance the wheels or anything. The crank's kind of dirty, but the rods feel nice. So we're gonna pull this out, get it cleaned up, put it in the chewing stand, and hope for the best. Now, as for the cases, I'm gonna end up cleaning these entirely and re-bead blasting them to give them a nice fresh finish on the inside and the outside. We'll have to redo tappet rebuild, cam end play reset, oil pumps rebuilt. I mean, this is a full-on engine rebuild. So I normally don't take on customer work, but I love a Harley-Davidson Flathead. These things are a ton of fun to rebuild.
Ooh, look at all that brown gunk.
Yeah, look at that. Ooh. Okay, well, there's no shortcuts to be had, no saving graces. It's amazing how a bike can run like that and need a complete engine rebuild. So it's one of those things, you know, when you get an old motorcycle and you decide to crank it up for the first time, there's any number of unknown factors. And your old barn bikes that have been sitting for a long time, that's one thing, but this has kind of been exposed to a whole new series of elements, and it shows. So everywhere there can be rust, there's rust. it doesn't show that it was high use. That being said, tons of parts are gonna need replaced. You break it down to the crank and we're gonna have to do a new balance and a new true likely. Hopefully these races will clean up and we'll use oversized bearings. But other than that, we're gonna dive in, and by the time you guys see this next, hopefully this motor's back together and ready to put in the bike. What was supposed to be a one-day project and about 45 minutes worth of work over at Stan's house quickly turned into a complete rebuild of this entire motorcycle. I mean, I've had the hubs apart, the brakes apart, it's all been reserviced, the transmission's been rebuilt, total engine overhaul, new crank pin, new sprocket shaft, new pinion shaft, all new bearings, speed blasted the flywheels, cleaned up the rods. We actually had the motor mounts underneath welded up, remachined to spec, checking over the chassis, making sure the transmission's up to snuff, looking over the brakes, wheel bearings. I mean, we've been through this motorcycle almost entirely. When Stan gets it back, it's gonna be as good as new. All right, here we go, man. Okay. We're set to put this thing in, Chris, so it's gonna be a two-man deal. I just realized when you get a pair of freshly welded engine cases back, the first thing you wanna do is set them into the frame and make sure it sets down properly. I got so excited putting this motor back together when I got it out of the boxes, I actually forgot to set the motor in the frame, so we're really, I wish I would have done this earlier. First thing you can see actually why they're
they got a ton of paint on there.
Yeah, there's paint, there's filler, there's primer. You want to be setting metal to metal on this, or else you can never really get it tight. This is a real nice example of a bike, but I'm seeing some things that just aren't the way that I'd have done them if I was restoring a bike. This thing's got these huge welded reinforcements. It's all been beefed up. I mean, for longevity purposes, it's probably a good thing. For correctness, leaves a little bit desired. Yeah. That being said, we're gonna go ahead and put this thing back together because Stan wants a rider. And you know what? This bike, once it's all back together, will be just that. Ready? Yep, let's go. All right. There we are. So I got Stan some fresh new motor mount hardware, Chris.
Okay.
He had just a bunch of hardware store nuts and bolts. If there's one thing that really pulls a antique motorcycle down, it's hardware store nuts and bolts. Let's see, getting this. Now what we want to do also is make sure that on our front motor mounts, we've got alignment here. Can you get it up there?
That one went all the way through.
Oh my God.
What?
That gap shouldn't be there. It's just frame that's way off, dude. We just gotta put spacers in there. Harley-Davidson fit all of this with precision, and for an engine to be that far off is, you know, a little bit concerning. We can always space it, and, you know, as long as those motor mounts are sitting flat, we're just fine. You know, if there's any number of larger issues that could really haunt you, we've got a freshly rebuilt motor that's gonna give him miles of service. Some newly machined motor mounts that are flat as a pancake underneath. So we'll just make sure that it's sitting flat and go from there. So with the engine back in the chassis, this bike is really gonna start coming together quickly.
Okay, so what do you want to do? What'd you say on the oil tank? We need to drain it?
Yeah, we're gonna drain the oil tank. If you wanted, you could hook up the return and vent lines.
I'm gonna use whoever's coffee mug this is over here to catch the oil.
Ooh, nice.
826, 926, 1026, 2.5 months. We're gonna fill it back up with coffee.
That ought to thread on really nice and easy. And, as you guessed it, it's nothing. Chris, if you want to set up like a bar over there in the vise for us to torch those head gaskets,
okay,
and anneal them, and then you'll want to fill that little trash can up with water,
yeah,
and that's what you can drop the gasket into. So Chris is over there annealing the head gaskets. He's heating up that copper red hot and then going to cool it down. It basically makes them softer. They squish a lot better. It provides a much better surface, a sealing surface for the head gaskets. I'm like inches away from getting this clutch back together, and we're on the way. Oh, it feels good.
So I guess we can take flood bike off the bucket list now.
Yep. New muffler.
New muffler.
So, oh nice, this has even got the patent pending deal on it. That's cool. So, yeah, one of the tough parts about a flood bike, is you just don't know the extent of the damage until you get the whole thing apart. So the bike was running fine, or so we thought, but then it started puking oil, sounded fine, but then you start looking at the muffler, holes down in the bottom, so a bunch of water sat right here. This thing was absolutely rotted out like crazy. Pretty gross situation. We can use the clamp, but other than that, that thing's pretty much junk. So we got a new replacement muffler, and I think if we're lucky, it'll bolt right on. But for luck so far, we've had 0. So we're just gonna hold our mouth right, or try to hold our mouth right. Okay. Good. Exhaust is feeling tough. Tough as nails. The pile's getting smaller, Chris. Let's pull those nuts out, bolts out. We'll set these back on the table, we'll time it. So we're gonna swing it around. Okay, intake valve is opening. Intake stroke, we're coming around. Open that timing plug over there.
Yep.
Yep, we should be coming up on timing mark right about there.
Okay, you're right before center.
Okay, I'm happy with that. That'll get us close enough to dial it in manually. We're sitting right about, it looks 7/16 before top dead center. Now, the beauty of these is when you time them, guys, you've actually got a little bit of freedom. Glorious. Okay, so next thing, looks like we're timed. Spark advance cable, 5/8 wrench. Where did the 5/8 go? Okay, give me a little bit of retard.
That's all the way advanced right there.
Yep.
A little bit of retard.
Okay, now go advance. Oh yeah.
We're cleaning up, cleaning up, cleaning up, cleaning.
Okay, let's do the heads. We got those heads, the gaskets cleaned up?
They're over there on the carburetor table.
Good deal. All right, here you go, Chris. Grab the head. Grab the second bolt. I got this one. Okay, we got them set. Let me get these out. Brand new head bolt washers. See, Colony makes all the good reproduction hardware. It's not original stuff, but it's as original. So got all the proper stuff now, so we should be rocking and rolling. So even though the bike's a 39, it does have aluminum heads. They made the ULs from 1937 through 1948, so that's what, 12 years. Aluminum heads came out on the 1940 models. So common upgrade though. So you see a lot of the earlier bikes with those aluminum heads, and they just went to the aluminum heads because they cooled better. Dissipates heat so much better. They've got a really, really great look. The look of the aluminum heads, really helps set the bike off, really gives some great contrast. Interestingly enough, on the Harley 45s, they came out with the aluminum heads in 1939. So 1 year difference on the big twins, and you really notice a difference when you're running down the road. So, Chris, you can slap a floorboard on if you want to, bro.
Okay.
We're going gas tanks. We're so close to running this bike. I mean, we're talking, it seems like minutes away. All right, man. This was an absolute marathon. But I think we're in shape. Okay, fuel line. This has that 1939, 1940 only fuel filter. It's a really cool piece. There's a screen inside of this little setup, so different than the later style. All right, that is one good fitting fuel line too. Yes! I can see the light. Stan, can you hear it running? Yeah, guys, big progress on Stan's bike in the past 80 hours. I could tell you what we worked on, but it might be easier to tell you what we didn't work on. We didn't work on that bike. The toolbox. We didn't work on the toolbox. We didn't work on that bike. We worked on this bike, and it's been down to pretty much the bottom, and we're back to running order. Really, really close, guys. It's exciting from this point on. So we're gonna drop this thing off the lift and roll the stands. Hook it back up to the sidecar and see if she fires. Yes, sir. Okay, bring her down. All right. Stan, he's our man. Took apart his motor and it was filled with sand. So this bike was flooded over 10 years ago, and I mean, Stan has had a mental block on being able to get this thing back up and running. With all the time that Chris and I have in this rebuild, it's gonna be great to see Stan reconnect with his dream bike.
The big day.
The big day. No more flooded bikes for Matt.
It's been a long time, over 10 years.
All right. There we go. Stan, you got no idea how tempted I was to fire this thing up before we brought it back, but I figured, you know what? Let's get it hooked up to the sidecar, and I want you to be the first one to kick it. So I think all we're gonna need is gas, but who knows, you know? All right, so Chris, give that jack a couple pumps. There you go, that looks nice. It's crazy how bad a flooded bike can actually get. Like you said, Stan, how long was it underwater? Not long.
Not at all. It was 2 times though.
Yeah,
But I took it out and washed it.
10 years ago, that was the crazy thing about it, is what we saw was that, like,
Yeah.
whatever was in there, like, over time it grew in there.
More.
That's okay. I guess. All right, let's lift her up, bring her back around. Very nice. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Okay. I'm gonna get this tied in down below. What you've got here, guys, are 3 main anchor points on the sidecar, and all 3 of them obviously are crucial to how the whole rig operates and handles. So the 2 that Chris and I first hooked up over on the side, those anchor the sidecar to the bottom of the frame, and that's actually how you set up your toe. So how those 2 motorcycle wheels are in alignment compared to the sidecar wheels. And generally, you want that sidecar wheel to be about maybe 3/4 of an inch in. That way it's not fighting the bike, trying to pull you over to the side. Now the top adjustment here is how the bike leans with the sidecar. And believe it or not, it's not really straight up and down. You almost want that bike leaned just a hair to the left. At least that's how I like to set them up. So let's get your straight edges. Go ahead and set them up on the wheels. All right, so right at the front wheel, I like about 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less.
Okay, so inside to inside, right behind the rear wheels, I am 54 and a half.
God, we're dead on, man. That's great.
Wow.
Yeah, 54 and a half here too. So we want to bring you out just a little bit.
Okay.
Call it a 1/2 inch. So go ahead and undo that thing, and it's going to start working itself in. We'll be running in 45 minutes, Dan. Okay, so let's, Chris, recheck. Yeah.
54 3/4.
54 3/4. Perfect. Looks just like when we picked it up. That's the funny thing about it. I mean, we were sitting here a couple weeks ago, man, and you'd never know that about 80 hours went into getting it back to where it's at now. So, you gonna do the honors? Fire it up.
No, you do it.
No, it's your bike. So when was the last time you rode this thing, Stan?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years ago. Well, one of the things I noticed, man, it's only got 53 miles on the odometer. You didn't ride it much, did you?
No.
No, you must have just got it? Did you just get it, or?
Yeah. I just got it. I bought it from the guy down in Florida there. Got it over to my house in St. Augustine. And I took it downtown like twice, and it stalled out, and I couldn't get it going.
And that was about it.
That was it. I pushed it back home, and then life got in the way. Put it to the side, and then it flooded twice.
Well, I can tell you one thing, man. Whoever did the work before I did the work, they knew what they were doing. Things were set up pretty right. I did notice that the cam end play was way out, but other than that, the cylinder bore looked really nice. The lower end was set up nice. The crank was true. Yeah. Okay. So you got a fuel shut off on this side, and if you got any idea how many kicks you think, put them in the comments. Chris, what do you think? One kick.
One kick.
Ooh. Pressure's on.
I'm putting the pressure on Stan.
Pressure's on Stan, but now pressure's on me. Did I do a good enough job rebuilding it, man? I'm guessing 3 kicks after 3 prime kicks.
3 prime without the ignition on it.
Yeah. You in gear. Yeah. Little rock. Yeah. Toe down. Yep. Don't flood it.
Do I give it throttle?
What's that?
Do I give it throttle?
You got to figure it out. Every bike's different. Until you do it, you don't really know, man. All right, that's 3 prime kicks. Choke off. A little bit of spark retard, which roll that. Yeah, there you go. That's good. Key on. Ooh. Chris is out.
I'm out.
It's always a flood of emotion when you get the bike fired up in the first couple kicks. So much work goes into the rebuild of an engine, and when they fire up that easy, you know things are done right. That's the payoff. So the last time we ran it, it wasn't circulating oil too. Hop up, let's see if it's pumping. Oh yeah. Wow, it's idling excellent. Now all that's left to do is take this bike down the road. Here, hop in, man. This sidecar's old. All right, ready? Goes in gear. Clutch work.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man. So I'll go ahead and call this one a success. If Stan can keep this bike on high ground, he ought to get a lot of miles out of this thing.
Easy there, son.
So it pulls real hard. Yeah. So what we got to do is we either need to tighten up the. Scared you there, didn't I?
I gotta go change my pants.
Okay, bam, guys. Another success story right here, or right here at Stan's house from the guys at Wheels Through Time. Back up and running, complete rebuild, an immense amount of work went into this bike, and very proud of how it came out. I know Stan's really proud of the motorcycle. I could tell from the moment that he called me over here to work on it. I'm glad we got you going again. When I saw that bottom end full of grime, we weren't going to let you come away with anything better than a bike that was rebuilt.
Science project in there.
It was a science project. You're not kidding, man. I remember something like that from, third grade science class or something. Anyway, man, you're set to ride though. You ought to be able to put a lot of miles on this thing. I mean, this bike will be. Bring it to the raffle?
Yeah.
Awesome,
Fantastic.
man. It'll be good to see you pulling it out of the parking lot. Don't take it back down to Florida, and if you do,
No.
park it on a hill.
No, it's staying here.
All right, good deal.
Everything's staying here.
All right, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to help, man. That was a
It's a beauty.
fun project. What do you think Stan's having for lunch?
Sandwich.
A sandwich?
A sandwich.
A sandwich.